1 minute ago, Katt Williams. Just names Kevin Hart as recruiter. There are lots of unexpected names. Before we begin, viewer discretion is advised. This isn't gossip. This isn't clickbait. What you're about to read is a courtroom testimony that turned whispers into thunder. And the man delivering it, Katt Williams. The comedian no one took seriously until he stepped into a federal courtroom, looked the jury in the eye, and spoke the kind of truth that left no one laughing. There was no entourage, no shades, no applause. Just Katt Williams alone, holding a black folder and wearing a stare that cut through the room. The courtroom fell silent as he raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth. And then in that unmistakable voice he began, "Let me say this one time under oath and without a punchline. I warned y'all years ago. You laughed." But no one was laughing now. For over a decade, Katt had dropped names in interviews. He'd hinted at parties, contracts, rituals, NDAs. He said it on stage and podcasts on morning radio, but people rolled their eyes. They called him bitter. Crazy? Was he? Or was he trying to warn us in the only way he knew how? Because now in a federal courtroom, those same names were on record. Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey, T.D. Jakes, Ricky Smiley, Ashton Kutcher, Justin Bieber, LeBron James, and of course the man at the center of it all, Sean Diddy Combs. These parties, Katt said they weren't parties, they were auditions, initiations. He paused, looked around the room. They make you feel like you're chosen, but really you're being owned. The gallery shifted uncomfortably, reporters scribbled. The internet, already buzzing, went into meltdown, but Katt didn't flinch. He kept going. He told the court about how patterns began to appear. Certain entertainers would vanish for a while, only to re-emerge with multi-million-dollar deals, Netflix specials, or primetime exposure. What changed? They went to the party, he said, and they came back different. He asked the jury, "You think success in this industry is about talent alone? Nah, it's about what you agree to, what you let them tape, and what you never speak of again." He claimed Diddy had more than connections. He had leverage, documents, videos, photos, dirt, and he didn't just use it. He manufactured it. People walk in clean, they leave dirty, and once he's got something on you, you either comply or you're erased. He described hidden cameras, pinhole lenses, NDAs that were more like gag orders, private rooms with gold lighting, escorts, strange setups, stories that aligned perfectly with allegations already made by Cassie Ventura and others. And then he looked straight at the judge. "I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because if I don't talk now, I might not get another chance." "Y'all want names? Cool. I got names." And he started listing them one by one, each more shocking than the last, and each name followed by silence so loud it hurt Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, T.D. Jakes, LeBron James, Ludacris, Ashton Kutcher, Justin Bieber. Do these names surprise you? Or have you deep down always wondered why certain people rise so quickly, so flawlessly? Katt said, "It ain't about being the funniest or the most talented. It's about saying yes." He paused. "I said no. That's why I'm here. That's why I lost gigs. That's why I got audited. That's why they called me crazy." He told the court how Kevin Hart's rise wasn't accidental, how his canceled sitcom suddenly turned into Netflix deals and franchise films. You don't go from Comic View to billion-dollar movies unless somebody signs off on it, and not everybody signs in ink. He accused Kevin of not just attending the infamous parties, but of playing a role. He was a friendly face, the one that made you feel safe, the recruiter. And then Katt looked right at the jury and asked, "You ever wonder why Kevin is always in the room but never in the footage?" He claimed when he refused the deal Kevin accepted, his world changed. He pointed not just to artists, but to the institutions, the record labels, the radio conglomerates, the television networks, and even nonprofits, all working like gears in a clock. Every artist who signs that deal, every manager who stays quiet, every blogger who deletes a story, they're all part of it. Why would someone delete a story that might change the culture? What price is paid for silence? Katt spoke about his own blacklisting, how after speaking out, his shows began getting canceled without notice. No email, no call, just gone. He revealed contracts, pulled last-minute venues, closing doors, and press interviews that mysteriously disappeared. He asked the jury, "You ever wonder how a whole industry turns their back on someone overnight? That's not business, that's instruction." And that instruction he claimed came from those with the footage. The vault. They don't need to fight you in public, they just make sure you never work again. They didn't just let him in, they escorted him in. He said Perry later warned his actors not to associate with Katt. You know why? Because I saw him at the party, smiling, enjoying it. He even named actors whose careers changed after working with Perry. Lamb and Rucker, Time and Durant. Did you notice the shift? Did you ask why? And then came the line that broke the internet. Every year, a new media. Every year, a new wig. And every year, a new check. He described the anatomy of manipulation. It starts with grooming, he said. Not just for sex, for control. They find out what you want, money, fame, security. Then they package it, wrap it up in a ribbon, say all you gotta do is show up. He explained how young artists, especially women, were targeted. They picked them young, new, hungry, alone. Then they offer the dream. You get in the room, you sign the NDA, and you don't realize until it's too late. He referenced Cassie Ventura's testimony. The gold rooms, the IV bags, the strange medical equipment, the aftermath. That wasn't partying. That was trauma. Scheduled and sanitized. Then he mentioned the handlers. People like Kevin Hart, who Katt claimed were placed to disarm and distract. You feel safe around them. You let your guard down. Then the camera rolls. Katt painted a chilling picture, celebrities being used as bait, NDAs being traded like currency, secrets being weaponized. He described a digital vault. It was the costume. Katt claimed Ricky's breakthrough came only after he donned a wig and a dress not for laughs but for loyalty. He admitted placing it as a condition in a contract. I wanted to expose the pattern, the reward system. You play their game, you get their bag. He turned his gaze to the jury. You still think this is just a coincidence? Or is this a casting call for obedience disguised as opportunity? Then came Steve Harvey. The mood thickened. Katt's voice lowered. Steve ain't just a comedian. He's the godfather of commercial silence. He alleged Steve protected Diddy not by direct involvement, but by covering with credibility. When your daughter dates a man who also dated your daughter's friend his son and you still show up for dinner smiling, that ain't family. That's fear. He accused Steve of copying ideas, stealing formats, and leveraging his position to silence dissent. He preaches hustle, but practices hustle. And then T.D. Jakes. The room froze. A different kind of reverence fell. Katt didn't mock. He didn't rant. He delivered the name like a weight. The pulpit ain't immune. He accused T.D. Jakes of being a spiritual shield for Diddy's image, of hosting concert shows and appearances with velvet rope gospel and gold-plated communion. He prayed over the mess not to clean it, but to cloak it. He claimed Jake silenced artists who questioned the cross-industry events, discouraged them from speaking out. That's not ministry, that's media strategy. He told the jury, you think God has a PR team, or do people just use him like one? And then he dropped a new accusation Jakes allegedly knew about a sex scandal involving a Diddy assistant, but chose to handle it internally. A pastor doesn't hide sin, a fixer does. Katt closed this segment quietly. There's nothing wrong with God, but there's a whole lot wrong with the people pretending to speak for him. He turned back to the gallery, looked at the prosecutors, and softly said, you want to know why nobody says anything because everybody knows they're being watched. What would you do if you knew there were hidden cameras in your room? Would you speak up? Would you even try? He claimed the parties were rigged. Surveillance built into furniture, ceiling tiles that were actually lenses, encrypted backups not stored by Diddy but his team. Proof. Proof designed not just to expose, but to control. They don't need to beat you, they just need to own the tape. He alleged multiple artists confided in him, not about what they did, but about what might be leaked. One told him, if that ever gets out, I lose my family, my name, my life. Katt refused to name the man. But the fear, he said, was real. He quoted Ashton Kutcher, what happens at a Diddy party stays at a Diddy party. Then he asked the courtroom, why do you think they say that? Because they're scared. Because they know it ain't a joke, it's a vault. Katt shifted his tone. The raw anger gave way to something colder, something deeper. This isn't just about Diddy, he said. He's the face, but the machine that's built to protect him. He pointed not just to artists, but to the institutions, the record labels, The radio conglomerates, the television networks, and even nonprofits all working like gears in a clock. Every artist who signs that deal, every manager who stays quiet, every blogger who deletes a story, they're all part of it. Why would someone delete a story that might change the culture? What price is paid for silence? Katt spoke about his own blacklisting. How after speaking out, his shows began getting canceled without notice. No email, no call, just gone. He revealed contracts, pulled last-minute venues, closing doors, and press interviews that mysteriously disappeared. He asked the jury, "You ever wonder how a whole industry turns their back on someone overnight? That's not business, that's instruction." And that instruction, he claimed, came from those with the footage. The vault. They don't need to fight you in public. They just make sure you never work again. He brought up Dave Chappelle. He left $50 million on the table. They called him crazy, said he ran to Africa, but go back. Watch his special. Really watch it. He was telling you everything. He talked about Martin Lawrence, the frantic run through the streets, the paranoia, the screams of "they're trying to kill me." What if that wasn't a breakdown, Katt asked. What if that was a warning? He talked about Jaguar Wright, Al B. Sure, artists who spoke up about Kim Porter, about the parties, they got branded unstable, toxic, difficult. Is it easier to dismiss someone than to listen to them? When did the price of honesty become exile? Katt told the court that silence wasn't just encouraged, it was purchased. He held up redacted documents. They offered me a contract, a deal I'll never forget, 7 figures. All I had to do was never speak on it again. He paused. I didn't sign it? That's why I'm here. And he asked the jury protect her from what? Then, as if bracing himself, Katt dropped another name, not just a star, a mogul. He said this person was more feared behind the scenes than Diddy, that he operated in silence, no media blow-ups, no scandals, just contracts and control. He didn't speak the name out loud at first. He slid a sealed document to the court. I'm saying it under seal because I know what happens when you say it in the open. The judge reviewed it, nodded. The name stayed confidential, for now. But Katt's message was clear. Diddy wasn't alone. There were others, bigger, smarter, more protected. He went further. There's a list, he said, not a metaphorical one, a real one. A roster of people protected by PR teams, legal threats, hush money, and more NDAs than the Pentagon. He claimed he saw the list once accidentally when a publicist left their laptop open during a green room meeting. Top to bottom, actors, politicians, executives, athletes, pastors, and next to each name, risk level, media vulnerability, exposure priority. He described how celebrities were ranked based on how easy they were to control. The higher the risk, the more coverage they got, to bury the truth beneath image. He asked why you think some of the most overexposed celebrities ain't said a real thing in years. Then he turned to how this system maintains itself. It ain't just blackmail, it's generational, passed down like inheritance. You don't just get a show. You get the silence manual, too. He mentioned media personalities paid to pivot stories, publicists who get bonuses for killing headlines, charities used to redirect attention. Every time you see a sudden foundation launch, ask yourself what story are they covering. He said some stars even had cleaners, people tasked not with actual crime but with image. Their job, rebrand, deflect a race. It's the Hollywood Vatican, he called it. Then he brought it home. NDAs being traded like currency, secrets being weaponized. He described a digital vault, thousands of hours of footage all encrypted and backed up. Not for the police, not for protection, but for power. And when someone steps out of line, that vault opens just enough to remind them what's inside. He cited unnamed artists who called him shaking, crying. I can't breathe, one said. If it comes out, I'm done. Then he asked a question, what kind of industry runs on fear? He continued with the mechanics of laundering reputations. They mess up, they don't disappear, they pivot, philanthropy, brand makeovers, pastor visits, suddenly they're the face of redemption. He said T.D. Jakes was one of the cornerstones in that system. He gave them legitimacy, put scripture over sin. And for those who tried to leave, Katt said there were 3 paths: silence, exile, or tragedy. It was a cultural reckoning. And in the center of it stood Katt Williams, no longer viewed as a fringe voice, but a man carrying decades of buried truth on his shoulders. He opened quietly. There comes a time when the lie gets too heavy to carry, and the truth, no matter how ugly, feels lighter. He recounted a recent encounter with a prominent music producer, nameless for protection, who told him off record I wanted to say something years ago. But I had kids, mortgage, parents relying on me. You think they're just coming after you? They come for everything you love. Katt nodded. That's the power of the machine. It doesn't kill you. It convinces you to kill your own voice. Then came a story few expected. Katt described a well-known female artist once at the top of her game, now largely forgotten, who confessed she was propositioned at a private brunch by a producer tied to Diddy's network. She refused. 2 months later, her label shelved her album. Inside were timestamp stills, redacted names, but the images were clear. Famous faces, in compromising positions, and date stamped to parties tied directly to Diddy's network. I can't say who gave it to me, but I will say this: the list is longer than anyone knows. He warned that if anything happened to him, the file was programmed to go public. It's set to release. I won't say when, but if I disappear, the world will know. He turned to the media seated in the back. You've seen the signs. You heard the whispers. Why didn't you look deeper? And to the public watching from outside, don't let your love for these stars blind you to the pain they've caused or endured. This isn't hate. This is healing. Then he addressed Diddy directly. You didn't just ruin careers. You collected them, hoarded them, traded them like trophies, but your vault's cracking, brick by brick. He ended the day with one final thought. They call it show business. But the real show was always behind the curtain. And now the curtain's falling. He stepped down. Again, no applause, just silence. The kind that only follows truth. As Katt Williams stepped back into the witness box the next morning, there was a shift in the room. Everyone knew what he had said yesterday, but the real question was what else was he willing to say today? He didn't start with names this time. He started with silence. The most dangerous part of the machine, he said, ain't the man running it. It's the silence that protects him. The silence y'all helped build. He gestured toward the press box, toward the back wall, toward the public beyond the courtroom. Y'all seen too much and said too little. The room sat still, hanging on his every word. Then Katt leaned in. There's a reason people like me don't last long in this business. Not because we ain't talented, but because we talk. And when you talk, you become a liability. He recounted a story few had ever heard before. A meeting at a studio in Los Angeles. He had just headlined a sold-out tour. Netflix was interested, HBO too. But during that meeting, the tone shifted. He was asked one thing. Could he avoid certain topics moving forward? I said, like what? And the executive replied, that stuff you be hinting at. He said they offered him a new special. A film deal, syndicated licensing,